You know how many people are ashamed to look themselves in the mirror, to look in their own eyes in the fucking mirror? They're ashamed to love themselves. They're ashamed to genuinely acknowledge who they are. There's parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at, that we're unwilling to look at. We're in a very interesting time in history that seems to happen once in a millennia. But the first time in modern history, every major institution is being challenged. Capitalism is being challenged for good reason. Religion is being challenged for very good reason. Nutrition, medical world, being challenged. Like everything is being challenged right now. Every major institution, I can't think of one that isn't being challenged. And you could look at that and go, wow, this is really scary. I look at it and go, this is really exciting. Because we'll likely come back to remembering why some of these things are really important. They're being challenged because we've lost sight of why they're important, or they needed to evolve and to grow. And we can be agents of change in helping that by just teaching people how to think right now, not what to think. We live in a different age. We have access to information that 20 years ago, presidents didn't have access to. It's not that we don't live in the age of knowledge or the information age. We're really into more of conceptualization. It's not information that's going to change your life. It's knowing what to do with that information. Information is at our fingertips. So that's the work. So here's a process that I would use in that integration. I think there's three steps in the process of really becoming, I would say, aware enough to begin to create change. Number one is awareness. Nothing changes without awareness. We can talk about this a few different ways. So how to become more self-aware. There was a big study that was done 3 or 4 years ago that looking at the most successful, influential people over decades and what characteristics did they exhibit. Number one was very self-aware. We're not consciously aware of how we're showing up or what we're doing. So awareness is number one. We become aware of who we are. Then we get honest about who we are, right? Power and authenticity. You know how many people are ashamed to look themselves in the mirror? Look in their own eyes in the fucking mirror? They're ashamed to love themselves. They're ashamed to genuinely acknowledge who they are. I don't know if that's a part of our drop-in programming or part of the thing we have to overcome when we're here, but it's pervasive. There's parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at, that we're unwilling to look at. Awareness plus honesty plus responsibility is where the growth is. We become honest about who we are, and then we take ownership for who we are. From that place, you can then facilitate real change in your life. Okay, well, what am I saying? How many of us spends an insane amount of energy trying to protect a version of themselves that isn't them, or defending a version of themselves that isn't them? How many people have dated somebody, met somebody, and go, wow, this is an incredible human being, only to get to know them and realize, I saw the best version of them the first time I met them, and the longer I get to know them, the more I realize they are not who they show up as the first time. Most of us put our best foot forward, and we put all of our energy into fronting who we think we are. And then as people get to know us, they realize, oh, that's not who you actually are. That's the difference between the ideal self and the real self. Time very often reveals who we actually are. How do we bring effective change there? Become aware, get honest about it, and take responsibility for it. You could sum that up into loving yourself for who you really are. If you enjoyed this video on relationships, you can check out more content like it in my playlist right here.